What is happening, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome back to a quick update. I have not been able to be as regular as I wanted to be with these, but I'll be getting back on track, especially as we have new information that is coming to us on the regular from several sources like Realtor.com, CoreLogic, Black Knight, and many others. But I'll put some of those links in the description. But the goal of this is to educate you guys as much as I possibly can in a short period of time based on the data that's out there and to possibly help you interpret that. So that being said, I'm Mark Jones, the Millennial Mortgage expert, branch manager of Directions Home Loan here at Cantera, and also the head of the Mark Jones team. And let's get started with this thing. So I like to start off with the average interest rates. And as you can see here, the most recent, as of the 13th, which would have been day before yesterday, and I'm using the Google tool, which doesn't have any type of advertisement or anything like that to bait you into applying or capturing your information, just simply data. And I like to use sources like this in order to provide you guys data because it's not swayed one way or another. It's just information. So as we look at this, you can see the 30-year fixed mortgage, and I have in here $300,000 loan amount, 5% down in the great state of Texas at a 680 credit score, looking at a 30-year fixed at 6.688. FHA is sitting at 6.72, VA 6.364, and USDA 6.755. USDA still one of the most overlooked programs out there for first-time home buyers in order to have a pretty low mortgage payment as opposed to an FHA that does require a down payment. Whereas USDA, 100% financing and typically about $100 lower than your FHA simply because of the reduction in mortgage insurance monthly. So that being said, guys, I want to talk to you guys about foreclosures. There was a report that just recently came out that I found very interesting. It almost is allowing me to put a lot of the things that you're seeing in the media, that you're hearing on YouTube. There's plenty of YouTubers out there that are talking about this crash. And as mentioned before in other renditions of this, real estate is always local. What do I mean by that? Well, you cannot take a broad look at real estate and apply it to every single state, every single city. As a matter of fact, here in San Antonio, we're about an hour and a half away from Austin, Texas, which is a completely different world than San Antonio. So it's important that when you're watching these media sources, outlets, and paying attention to any of the blanket statements that are being said, I want you to make sure that you dive into what your local trends are taking place. So that being said, let's jump over into the first, which is going to be an article that I found here by CoreLogic, and it looks like it is about loan performance insights. So the introduction to this basically allows you, the consumer, to get a brief look at what is happening behind the scenes in regards to the foreclosure rates and where they're happening and what is actually taking place, because you're seeing things like foreclosure rates increased by 3,000%. Guys, there's only 100% in a percentage, so therefore that means they're basing it off of a very few amount of foreclosures, and then it jumps up a bit. Well, if you compare that to the previous, or what we had in the past with all the mortgage moratoriums and things of that nature, you're going to come up with an outlandish statistical figure. But when I look at this, it seems like we're not that far off from where we were prior to the pandemic and even before that. So the crash that we're hearing about, in my opinion, will affect real estate substantially, but not in all locations. Luckily for me, you, hopefully those that are listening, we're in Texas, and that's why they call it the great state of Texas. That and many other reasons. So if I go through this article here, CoreLogic basically is a data mining company that takes all of the mortgage information, trends, things of that nature, and puts it in a way for us to understand. So the first thing that pops out to me on this is you can see in April 2021, the mortgage foreclosure rate was at 4.7%. Then you also jump over to now, which April 2022, and all data, all information is always going to be lagging. There's no way to track these things right out the gate. So as you can see, there was a 1.8% decrease in the amount of foreclosures nationally, and I think that's very telling. Here is a quote by Molly Bolsell, who's the principal economist for CoreLogic. She says, the U.S. foreclosure rate edged up in the spring of 2022 after hitting a historic low at the end of 2021. Forbearance that helped keep homeowners out of the foreclosure are expiring for many borrowers, but ongoing strong employment numbers and large amount of equity should help forbearance rates low moving forward. So if we look at this, we want to see where the overall delinquency rates and the annual change, and it looks like Louisiana, Mississippi, New York, West Virginia, Oklahoma. I feel like I'm singing that song, that country roads take me home. I'm kidding. But as you can see here, from April, the percentage rate has decreased substantially. I mean, these are pretty big numbers, even though it's a small percentage. But if we look at the 30-day delinquencies in the nation, and this is 30 days or more past due in this section here. And as you can see, the pink is going to be 2021 and purple is going to be 2022. There was a reduction in that sector or that section. Then you have from 30 days to almost 60 days. There was a slight increase there. It stayed the same from 60 to 90. From 90 to 120 or 119 days, it decreased, and so forth and so on, continuing. What I found pretty interesting is this here. Overall delinquency is defined as 30 days or more past due, including those in foreclosure. In April of 2022, all states logged year-over-year decline in their overall delinquency rates. The states' largest declines were Nevada, Hawaii, and New Jersey. So as we look at this map here, you can see the gray is basically 30 days or less percentage of foreclosure rates. And as you can see, the gray indicates 0 to 2%, and that is not much change. Then you go over to the purple, which is a reduction in anywhere from 2 to 3% decrease in mortgage foreclosures. And lo and behold, Texas is one of those categories. You can see there's one state that is actually below 3% in regards to the year-over-year decrease. But it just goes to show that consumers were actually using this forbearance opportunity as a great way to continue to keep their mortgage intact. Most of the situations added a second lien to that, but it still allowed you to keep your home and not lose any of the equity. I think that is going to be the way that our economy, in regards to the mortgage real estate side of things, will continue to thrive. Now, I have to make sure that I explain to you guys we're not going to see the same type of growth year over year that we have in the last 2 years. That was what they call unsustainable. And now that we are shifting, and a lot of folks are using this term shifting, and I have to disagree. I don't believe we're seeing a shift, not even close. And I'll get into that in just a moment, but in order for us to see a shift, and anytime we talk about shift, we've got to be talking about from a seller to a buyer's market. Just because we're starting to see buyers get a little bit of closing cost every once in a while, maybe a reduction in the actual original sales price that was placed on the market, doesn't mean that we're trending or switching to a seller's market. In order for it to become a seller's market, we've got to have at least 6 months of inventory or greater. at about 4 to 5 months. That's when it's about a mutual market, but we're still sitting at 1.8 to 2 months of inventory. So what that tells me is that the initial list price of some of these homes that you're seeing large reductions in has to do with them being initially overpriced. So sellers are starting to get a little bit more serious and more in tune with what's actually happening in the market. And when you have interest rates that are rising, you can't then turn around and continue to gouge these buyers for the sales price. Most folks don't have the additional funds to pay over and above, especially in San Antonio. So let's move on. That being said, guys, I do want to show you one additional thing that I thought was pretty cool, which is this migration map or migration statistic tool that Redfin offers. And as you can see here, you can come into this and choose wherever state that someone consumer-wise has originated from and where they're going. So I jumped in and I selected, where is Austin, Texas? There's Austin, Texas. You got plenty of folks moving there from all over the country. Then I wanted to look at Dallas, Texas. Let's find that. There it is. Plenty of folks moving here from all over, or moving to Dallas from all over. And now let's hone in on San Antonio. San Antonio. Gosh, it's good to know that people are coming here and will continue to keep our values, at least in a positive standpoint. As mentioned, they're not going to increase at the same rate that we saw recently, but they will continue to increase. Historically, it's important for you guys to know that more home values have stayed around 4 to 5% year over year growth, and that's every year as an average. If you take a look at any type of, or zoom out to take a look at historical values, you'll find that from the year 2009 to about 2010, 11, we saw about a $4,000 to $8,000 decline in our values, but then started trickling right back up after 2011, 2012, and so forth and so on. So just want to continue to provide you guys with tools, with data, with information that you can actually use. I also have something that we prepared for you on our website, which is LaCanteraLoans.com. You can visit this site and you'll see market data that we update weekly, once a week on Mondays. And it's the 4 major categories that I believe we should be paying attention to. The average home value, which currently sits at $298,628, and that is in San Antonio specifically. So as mentioned, real estate is always local. So I'll be bringing you local data. That way you can be a little bit more of an educated consumer when you're making your decisions. The second thing is average days on market. We're currently sitting at 16 days average on the market. Matter of fact, we had a realtor that we were working with that called us and said, "Hey, is everything okay?" And we're going, "Why? What do you mean?" Said, "I have a property that we listed and it's been on the market for 8 days. I'm like, okay. So I think we have a misperception of what's actually going on. And for quite some time, we had mortgage rates that were way too low. We have mortgage real estate professionals in the industry that literally just recently got in and were able to close transactions because there were just so many to go around. Anywho, so the third thing is the average months of inventory. We're still sitting at 2 or below. And then the new listings that are hitting the market. I will be putting this in here weekly as mentioned, and this is the new listings for the week. So we're at 1379, and this is in San Antonio. Trust me, folks, we've got plenty more buyers in the San Antonio area and folks around the country moving to San Antonio that can still scoop these properties up. I think it's important for sellers and listing agents to be realistic when they're listing their properties, or it's going to sit. I mean, we're in a market where it is still competitive. I think it rates like 79% on the competitive rate in Redfin as far as data goes. But if you continue to research, do the honed in, zoomed in local check, I think you'll find that buying a home is going to be a much better route than renting. Because regardless, let's say inflation does go up, continues, 9.1% is what they're saying. Are you going to be paying somebody else's mortgage, or are you going to be building your own home equity? I think that's the question that we need to, as consumers, must face. And it takes some understanding, maybe a bit of prior education from family members to show you what their experiences were. And it's important that you ask somebody that does actually own a home and not somebody that's renting. Nothing against that, but I think you have to go with what someone has actually been through, not what they think is going to happen. So I hope you just got a little bit out of this. Keep in mind that if you are outside of Texas and moving to Texas, you can visit us at lockandterraloans.com. One of our trusted loan officers is ready to jump on a Zoom call with you to go over your options. And it is important that you do get those options before you start looking at properties. So that being said, it's Friday. We've got plenty left to do here. Fridays are always busy time for us here because everybody gets off work a little early and starts to look at homes. So we've got to get these pre-approvals ready to go for them. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. I'm Mark Jones, your Millennial Mortgage expert, branch manager of Directions Home Loan. And as I always say, everyone's a buyer. It's just a matter of when. We're here to show you how. You guys make today count.